Hello and welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Evan. That's Mike. We have yet another special guest today. We have Trent Hale. You were the runner-up from this year's Adepticon, playing a CIS list, and so therefore you are here to talk about the state of the faction. We're back to real factions now. We tossed the Shadow Collective back into the bin where it deserves to live.
Where it
Uh,
belongs.
so we're very glad to have you, Trent. Why don't you tell us a little about yourself? Because I think until you hit that runner up spot, I think not enough people knew your name and what you were about.
Yeah, so I'm from Indy here, part of the 317 Legion. Um yeah, Adepticon was it was fun. I ended up just one spot short, you know. I don't travel as much, I feel like, so I feel like maybe that's why you wouldn't have heard of me perhaps, but play a lot of TTS, a lot of like Invader League stuff. So, yeah.
But you also played in Worlds last year, right?
Yeah, I got sixth last
You
year,
got
so
sixth, yeah. So, you know, even if maybe you're not necessarily getting out to all the cons, you're like showing up when it really matters and doing quite well. So, certainly hope by now that people will start to recognize your name. Now, Trent, you mentioned you're from the Indy area. I do have to I do have to share a small anecdote with you. While you were playing your final round, I was talking to one Brian Bear. That would be the person
yes.
that you defeated on the way to being runner-up at Worlds. And he was just telling me how when y'all were playing, like, is it in his basement or your basement that you played a bunch of practice games?
Yeah, no, the old bear cave, as some anonymous reporter, I think,
The Bear Cave.
mentioned some of the goings on there. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, no, we
Uh,
played quite a bit. That was a fun matchup because he kind of had my number. I was down at 11x. I had a flamer spider in there, and I dropped some upgrades and got to two droidicas to get activation parity with them, and I it was great because I he didn't notice until about halfway through round one, I think, that my list had actually changed from those practice matchups, and so that was a fun little realization.
Oh
But
man, that's tough. Good choice though, going from a flamer spider to two decas.
yeah, it really put the list over the top. I feel like I don't think I would have done as well with the one spider.
Yeah,
Deckers are pretty good, as we'll almost
yeah, we're
certainly talk about today, for
we are
sure.
gonna talk about that for sure. But yeah, Brian was just relenting about how he had beaten you so often in the bear cave, and then when push came to shove, he ended up falling behind. But it's good to give him a little bit of a dose of humility every now and then if anybody needs it. It's him.
Of course, you know.
Obviously.
Well, thank you again for being here. Very quickly, we have a shout out for two of our patrons, Syndicolo and the Warchitect. He's an architect of war, I'm guessing. So thank you for being patrons. And then we are going to be getting to State of the Faction in pretty short order, but first we did have a bit of news to cover, Mike. Do you wanna tell us like what sort of changes have happened to battle forces?
You mean the stealth changes that are not reported or recorded anywhere on the documents?
That's okay. We have an army of people that are like constantly scanning PDFs, and at least one of these was very noticeable because I got DM'd by like six different people when it happened. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Tell us what changed.
So I think the coolest thing that changed is a bunch of I believe the Rebel Agent is a new unit that a bunch of these battle forces can take. So that's cool.
Okay.
I think there's also an Imperial Agent on here too now. Yeah,
I guess
Imperial.
they had the Imperial Commader on there before, but not the agent
Correct,
on some of these battle
correct.
forces. Okay.
And there's a couple added unique upgrades, which assumedly are like more doctrine stuff, but it looks like maybe there are four doctrines and like two of them are shared or something. And like
Mm-hmm.
one is unique to commander, one is unique to agent. That's the funnest thing that I saw. The rest of it is interesting, but I think they fixed your Wookiee battle force.
Yeah,
The speed one moves you can now take regardless of the number of, I think immobilized tokens don't shut it down either.
it's that the free move when you lose a mini once per round per unit for the Wookiee battle force is done irregardless of speed. So in that way, it is actually like scout because that's even though nobody ever really there's rarely ever a reason to really think about it, but the something that is on the scout move is that it is not affected by your maximum speed, which is why even in the past, if you had a battle shield Wookiee and you were starting the game with a defense shield up and you put recon intel on there, like you would still be able to do that because the scout move was never affected by maximum speed. And so now the free Wookiee Battle Force move is in that same category. And so where that leaves us is that you can now have the battle shield up and get your free moves. So yay, that's great. Um, Minor downside to that, I would say, you still can't climb when the battle shield is up on its defensive side because that is like a separate issue. Like the thing that they changed is the free move. But then, on the upgrade side, and in a way that I think is more significant, is that you also still cannot be force pushed when you have the defensive battle shield up. I guess it's because they're holding it up, they're like jamming it into the ground, and they're saying, you can't push me away. So, like there are situations where that can matter. It certainly would depress like a Dooku player. I would think if you had a full Wookiee squad with like a dodge, if you use that one Wookiee command card that gives you a free dodge at the beginning of the round, uh, and then and then they also had the shield up. All of a sudden, like you would be in a place where like Dooku can't really do anything to them. He would maybe get
Maybe
like
kill a Wookiee.
yeah, maybe 4 wounds done, but that doesn't really feel like an appropriate Dooku turn. Um, so there's some play there. It's
I feel like this is a massive buff, to be honest,
Wookiees
over
have
what it was
Yeah.
gloriously been returned
previously.
to mediocrity.
Like the fact that you immobilized tokens don't take away your free moves is pretty big, right?
It is, yeah. The free moves tend to matter more when you're at range, and you weren't getting a ton of mobilized tokens at range anyway.
Sure. I
Uh,
don't know. You're like the only thing in the game that doesn't care about immobilized tokens, you know?
it's it's not bad. It's not bad. Like I'm definitely glad that they came around to correcting this. The whole immobilize. I don't know, Trent. When the whole immobilized burst of speed thing went down, what were your feelings about it? When this was back in like January or whatever.
This is great. Now my Dooku can burst of speed and then I get pushed the next round. He can do the
Yep.
old Commander Vader trick. It's awesome.
Yeah. It was a nice little upgrade for burst of speed characters for sure. But yeah, like hey, I appreciate the devs like doing this pretty quickly, not waiting for the fall update, just getting it done. Um, and then there were a couple other changes, right, Mike?
There were. We had a forum post saying that HQ uplinks can be used in every battle force and they don't need to be called out in the unique upgrades. Even though they've got 2 pips on them saying that you can only take 2. I
Right.
guess they're saying that it's basically not unique. I think they said they used another word for it that I'm not
Limited, I think.
limited, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, limited.
So I think basically and additionally, they made some changes to the Ewok battle force. I think because of that, the limited upgrades that apply to Ewoks are actually removed from the unique upgrades allowed. And I think that's what Call to Arms, I think, is one.
Yeah. It's
Um,
like it was sort of funky having that in there because it's like a Ewok exclusive card anyway. And
but
it's
you
already
take it in a normal rebel list, right?
you could, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess what I mean is that it's exclusive to Ewok units.
Yes.
And so So yeah, they I think they made it less confusing in the grand scheme by just, having the limitations be for unique cards only and not calling out limited cards because they're already limited by the fact that they are limited. So that's some
Imagine
good.
that.
Yeah, imagine that. That's some good clarification there. And then the last thing is, or at least I think it's the last thing, is the one that is, I think, maybe the most interesting. It's funny that this came out like the same day that we recorded the cast where I was talking about the Ewok Battle Force, and that this thing actually would have been pretty relevant to that discussion. But what was the change that was made more directly to Ewok Battle Force, Mike?
Yeah, so they reworded Leia's beautiful friendship command card, which basically makes it so that um in order for that command card to work, all of the rebel commanders needed to have allies of convenience, which they now have as a battle force effect.
Yeah, so that's actually that's actually like pretty nice. It means that, for instance, you can once again do the stupid reckless diversion trick with Han and an Ewok squad, where most of them are hiding behind a rock,
I mean,
without
like, weren't you just paying the 5 points to be able to do that before, though?
most people weren't, because you wanted to like have improv on him. And does he have two command slots? I don't remember.
I believe you as
Um,
well.
but I at least, when I say most people, what I always mean when I talk about Ewok lists is that over in France anyway,
Where
which is
where people
the
play Ewoks.
the source of all actual Ewok knowledge. I had not been seeing Ally's Convenience on Han. Lots of improv orders, like 3 copies of improv orders in every list, which is a fun way to have order control. It's like both chaotic and not chaotic at the same time. But I think me equally as important for Brains and Brawn, where there was always this like silliness, or sorry, not Brains and Brawn, for Beautiful Friendship, where there was always this silliness that Leia would be generating the command, and the command says Leia and Wicket, but even though it said Wicket, unless you put AOC on Leia, uh, it wouldn't, it wouldn't have actually ordered Wicket before. So you have a little bit more turn one order control. So you will, like, for a list where you were playing that turn one, which you often are. Um, and yeah, it's pretty, it's like a decent buff. It's a 5 point card that now goes on 2 rebel commanders. And did they put the generic rebel commander in the Ewok battle force? I don't think they would have, because the old one didn't have the generic in it.
No, there are
Okay.
neither of the rebel customs are in this battle force. They are
Yeah. So,
both in the Echo-based defenders, though.
okay. Um, but yeah, so like it is technically a 10 point value that's just sort of tacked on to the rebels in Ewok Battle Force. Not nothing. It will make some interactions more clearer. So yeah, it's a little bit of a buff. Once again, Ewok's a strong choice if you if you can afford it, and if you have the time to build and paint all of this. Trent, are there any Ewok players in the Indy area?
Matt Evans, Flawed Zombie, has been playing some Ewoks recently. I
Okay.
haven't. I think he's bringing them to Rocky Top, but
Oh,
I'm not
sick.
completely sure on that.
Yeah,
I'll have to
that's
see.
in that's in just a couple weeks, right?
Yeah, it's this weekend. So
Oh yeah, cool, cool.
yeah.
Yeah, that's at some point I want to go down there. I'm sort of from Tennessee myself, so it'd be cool to come down for a little bit of a homecoming. Sadly, it just tends to keep happening very close to my anniversary, so
Uh,
tends to be a tough bargain on my side. All right, well, Mike, do you have any other thoughts on these Battle Force changes before we move on to CIS?
Yeah, I do. I have one major one,
Okay.
and that is every faction seems to be able to take their custom commanders and stuff in these battle forces, except for Republic, and that makes me grumpy. That's all I have to say.
Well, the Wookiee one does let the Jedi
The
Knight
Wookiee
in
battle force
operative.
isn't a real Republic battle force. Let's be
Hey,
clear. That's like saying Ewoks are like rebels. It's a sub faction,
okay,
right?
well, the Ewoks are mercenaries, and the Wookiees are actual Republic guys,
Whatever.
bro.
I think if you would go back in time and redo Wookiees as like a unit in this game, they would have the Ewok treatment, frankly.
Well, sad to say this will be the final episode of Notorious Scoundrels. Now that Mike and I are in a major feuding zone,
It's okay. It's all
I'll
right.
I'll I'll push past it for now. Very very quickly before we get to the name of the game, I did want to shout out. I had neglected to do this for a couple weeks, but I got messaged just to advertise a little bit for the Ironwell the Legion tournament.
Mm.
This is going to be July 11th through 13th in Wakefield, Massachusetts, just outside Boston. There are apparently a bunch of Canadians coming down, and if anybody was paying attention at Adepticon, the Canadian contingent is quite a fierce one, and so it already sounds like if they're coming down, then there will be some really good competition. So please do check that out. We will, Mike, I'll send you the link to this so that we can put it under the YouTube page. And just as a general shout out, we are happy to call out tournaments on here. We like to focus on if we can either multi-day or tournaments expected to like be in the 24 plus range, and especially if they're not GTs, because those are the tournaments that sort of need the most advertising. The GTs end up sort of getting posted on Longshanks and the AMG website and whatever. But just you can feel free to message me, and I'll let you know if I think that it sort of slots in there.
I
Uh,
also take bribes, just so we're clear.
yeah, Mike takes bribes, so it's figured we should just be straight about that. Okay, so let's move on to the reason why we're here. So welcome again, Trent. Um, there is a lot to cover with CIS. I don't know what it is. It feels like this is the most packed faction in a weird way, even though it's actually one of the newer ones. Uh, part of that is that like when I it was funny that we start with Rebels, because when I look at this commander list and I see that it also has more unique people on the commander slot than Rebels do, which has been around since the beginning. Uh,
Yeah,
and it's not quite as many as the clones have, which is actually like a strong thing because the clones have like a couple too many in my opinion. But we will start with the commander slot. Um, Trent, I think I know the answer to this, but if you're building a CIS army, what commander are you thinking of first and foremost?
first and foremost, this might be a surprise because I think
Oh,
you're leading me towards Count Dooku here. Um, but I
I
think the
am,
answer is
but
actually
you're
Kalani.
free to answer it however you want. You think
Um,
Kalani?
yeah, because Kalani kind of ties the faction together. I think you can do
Man, you
without
took the
Dooku.
words out of my mouth. Oh, I love it. I love it.
Interesting. Go ahead, Trent.
He gives you your direct, which is the most important thing for the because you can get direct with the T series, but you usually want to order either aquas or like snails or something.
It's much
And
weaker direct
Kalani,
from the T series.
right. Kalani does that really well. And he the most important thing that Kalani brings is do not underestimate our means, which is just so huge for aquas and really good for like droidica repositioning, but it's entirely necessary for aquas to function at all. So um,
That's interesting. So, do you do you think that do not underestimate our means is more useful for aquas than, like, for example, another alternative would be all three of your decas, or two, like if you have two B2 units, you could do two B2s and a deca. Like, I mean, what do you think is the strongest way to use that card?
if you have aquas, I think you put the reinforcements on the aquas and then you figure out what you need based on the objective after that.
That's fair. Because I mean, a speed one move is bigger on an aqua. I mean, it's equally big on a deca, I guess. But for an aqua, any situation where you are either on a point or like if that reinforcements makes it so that you're only one speed one move away from a point for the next round, then yeah, that can make a really big difference. So yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, like because of the direct, because of the 3 pip, um, I could see the argument for Kalani being the name of the game. Who knows if the customizables are going to change that? Like, right? Like, are they? I'm guessing that there's going to be some direct options because I feel like the answer to this used to be the generic super tack because it was like a little bit more efficient than Kalani,
Absolutely. Yeah.
but not an option anymore. And then I guess we can also talk about uh, Kraken in this instance. You know, Kraken it's tough. It's tough to not have direct.
Yeah, but the thing is, you can actually run Kalani and Kraken together now, and
Fair.
that's something I've been looking at a lot. I haven't really figured out exactly how I want to do it. Um, I really like the idea of Kraken with Into the Fray and Exemplar. I think that's something worth exploring, but I haven't figured out exactly how I'm going to do it yet.
Can you do that in EXD? Run Kalani and Kraken together?
I believe so. Yeah.
Huh. What do you think of that, Mike? Do you think there's something to that?
Yeah, of course. I think that I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Um uh yeah, I mean super tax have always been good, right?
Right.
Regardless of if they're unique or if they're generic. The fact that you can now take 2 of them, uh whether we'll see what the price points come in at for like the customizables and stuff, but I mean they both have exemplar, right? Like tossing down strategize 2 with Kalani and just hitting Kalani and Kraken seems pretty good, Kraken for, 20 points more than the T series seems like a pretty substantial upgrade overall. Um,
Yeah.
you know.
It's really not much to give it like a real health pool and a real gun, like a pretty nice melee charge.
I mean
Yeah, it's not
his
nothing.
attacks are pretty close to most bounty hunters, frankly.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah, you
true.
do lose out on the surge generation, which does hurt. The
That's
T series is really your only source of surges. That's why I've been trying to do the Into the Fray kind of nonsense
Oh yeah,
to get
okay.
the
And
surges out. But
in
yeah,
into the fray with Kraken is yeah, that's interesting because that's the way that you could get surge generation in this world
where aggressive
where
tactics
aggressive
say.
tactics is sadly gone the way of the
RIP.
dinosaur. RIP exactly. Yeah, I mean that is interesting. I'll say like in the droid list where like that I'm taking to world teams, I basically just like kind of gave up on surge generation just because it seemed too tough to make it work. But um, yeah, like I actually had forgotten until just now that Kraken even had a training slot. It seems kind
Yeah.
of funny for droids to have a training slot. I guess Magna Guards have it too, but
I
uh
I wish we could pan right now to wherever Will Pagani is and like see his like vivid reaction to they took away aggressive tactics and now they're putting into the fray on exemplar melee units.
yeah, hey, this is when people start starving, they
Yeah.
they start hunting for scraps. That's just how it works. Um but yeah, I think we can pivot a little bit to the T series just to sort of think about the cheaper options. So like you mentioned the fact that it is bolster. It of course also has exemplar and it does also have direct core, um which allows you to not have to have an HQ uplink in order to maintain order control. Is that you can just kind of keep a chain going. It's obviously good for any list that is like piling in a whole bunch of B1 activations. But is there some kind of a threshold you think of when it comes to like if you're starting with Kalani generally, then you have your choice for a second commander. You can either do a hero unit or you can do a T series. What are the sort of lists where you would think about a T series?
Operative heavy list, because generally, at least historically, what I played before 2.6 was a lot of B1 spam and then
Hmm.
reverse sort the operatives. So if you want to do that kind of list, T series is great because you get the core orders out if you're running a lot of B1 heavy lists. Um, Even if you're not though, just if you have, your playmaking in the operative slot, he's a great choice just to pass out surges, and he can usually keep an order on himself if you just keep a B1 close because you just pass it to the B1 and
Right.
chain it back.
Route it
So
back.
yeah, easy, turn one activation to take out some tokens. He'll always have a face up. Just very, very vanilla, white bread unit, but it's pretty good.
They gave him Surge to block, so he's not like instantly killable
Yeah, yeah.
anymore as much as he used to be. I do miss the days when I would just like get a. I had killed more than one generic T series with like Echo plus an RPS and fire support back in the day, just to sort of like leap out and, and get rid of one of their activations.
You just sort of point at it and
Yeah,
say, I delete
exactly.
that.
Yes, bye. So yeah, sadly those days are over, but I guess happily for CIS players. Yeah, that makes sense. It's just a strong unit. It was a strong unit before it had Exemplar. That was one of the, when 2.6 rules first came out and I like looked at the T series and saw that it had Exemplar in it and I was like, what is happening to this game? But yeah, Mike, do you have any thoughts on the generic T series?
It's interesting. I think that it gained Exemplar, which is like super strong, but I don't really see people playing a lot of the T series, I feel like, generally.
I feel like it's just because Kalani and then especially like Dooku, but also Grievous are just like so strong that it's just hard to fit him in. Like, if CIS had three commander slots, I think you'd see him all the time.
That's fair. I also think like the fact that they added direct or like pseudo direct to basically every commander on the CIS
We're
roster
gonna talk about
also
one of them
also
next.
also took away from like the uniqueness of what the T series kind of brought to the table, right? Like before it was like if you wanted direct in CIS, you either had to take a super tack or you had to take a T series. And now it's like if you want direct, you just take anything, basically. Obviously there are like caveats with some of them, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Like Grievous can only do it to a Magna and stuff like that. But yeah,
Yeah.
order control. It's pretty good. Before we move on too much, I was curious, Trent, when it comes to the super tack, uh, do you am I off here in thinking that the super tack one pip is like not as good as it used to be?
Oh, I never played it. I don't.
Okay.
You could Most competitive lists have improv orders, and improv orders just completely makes it a null effect. So I'd rather just order what I want to
Yep.
go first instead of my support commander.
That was a better card when fire support was a thing that you could nullify with its effect.
I think I'd go even
But
far to
like
say, go ahead, Trent.
they could they get to pick the order they remove those. So if it's a really important order, usually they'll be able to have something else to remove. So it's
Yeah.
just, you know,
Yeah, choosing which order out of the bag comes out first can be helpful sometimes, but like the thing that really matters is probably going to have a face up and that they're going to be able to keep it. And so then, yeah, I agree. It's sort of like, what are you doing? What were you going to say, Mike?
I just think it was a card that was much stronger when the game was slower. I
That's true.
think now that a lot of the time you're like playing like one pips on turn two, turn three, turn four, or whatever. Like two out of the three of those turns, you're probably playing one pips. Um, Means that like you're not going to be able to kick orders as regularly back with this. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. And also, in an age without comms relay, strictly ordering the super attack with the order is actually like really limiting. So
Yeah.
yeah.
that's another non-bonus to it. Okay, so let's move on to somebody that we were alluding to earlier. One and only Count Dooku may now be all right. So maybe a leading question, Trent, but I'm just gonna give it to you. I'm really good at leading questions. Count Dooku the best Jedi in the game?
He's top three. Um, I would put him two behind Op Luke and in front of Anakin, but
So
Told true by a man harassed by Brian.
that is fair. I will just like ask, did the change to use Server Master well? Because like I wonder, did that actually like flip their placement? Because that card did get pretty significantly nerfed in the fact that it can no longer mind control an opponent unit.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely better when you play it would have been an ease off my mind as a double Black Sun user that
Yeah.
played into a bunch of Op-Luke, but I don't think it was too crazy of a nerf because you're probably wanting to panic them anyways. So
That's fair.
putting five suppression on something is not a
It's
zero
true. It's not
effect,
nothing.
right? And they're usually rolling with sleeper cell anyways if you want to get the big shot off. So
Yeah.
you could just
Getting an extra sleeper cell shut off is often going to be better than shooting with their own guy anyway.
Most of the time.
Like Black Sun maybe being the exception to that, so I can definitely tell that particular list would have benefited. But back to Dooku. Boy, just like it feels unfair, honestly. Like let's say a rebel player and you have Ahsoka. You're looking at Ahsoka, who I believe is 145. That is 20
Yes.
points less. That is 20 points less than Dooku. Uh, and so for 20 points, you are gaining Direct Trooper, which might be the best keyword in the game, maybe. Master of the Force, a natural surge to block, and cunning, and his mastery. Like, need I go on? It is nuts what you get for the package. He is him and Op Luke, I guess, along with Commander Vader, are like are the units where it is the easiest argument to just like slap on a 40-point upgrade by the name of Force Push, just because of the insane utility you get around it. Um, Choke is obviously still great. Burst speed is great. You know, do you
Man,
have anything bad to say about Dooku? He's just nuts.
um he is he is easily the best control character in the game. If
Yeah.
you want to just control the pace of the game and take control, I guess, just control middle points, whatever. He is easily the best at that. But he does have mobility issues, and he is not the best murder piece in the game. And
Not a ton of raw dice.
exactly,
Yeah.
right. So sometimes you need a piece like a Vader or an Anakin to really eliminate activations. And while Dooku can do that, that's not his strong suit, right? He's more eliminating activations by push and the 3-pip and uh panicking them. So you don't get dice variance with that, but also you're not removing those units completely. So there's a give and a take there.
Yeah. Uh, I mean, just the stuff you can do, like, and it especially it seems like he got even better from an objective standpoint. Uh, like with the way that some of that, obviously all the primary objectives have to do with like what location are you hanging out at, and he can manipulate that in many ways. But even with the secondaries, being able to uh like move somebody speed 2 and then move them speed 1 again, you can like get that unit to where you want them to be. And like I've had this done to me. I've been able to do it myself, but like to just like scooch a unit toward somebody that is maybe in your opponent's zone, so that they can finish them off and score the 2 points with sweep and clear. Or of course, like recently something fun that I did was that I just like did a double move burst for speed with Dooku in a late round to force choke a Dark Trooper to get the 2 points from sweeping clear.
Nice.
It is just it's just nuts, like the sort of board control stuff you can do with him. And in that standpoint, he is now, I think, officially better than Luke because he doesn't have the movement tricks that you had. Um,
I will
yeah.
say, Evan, what you just said is actually highly illegal.
What's
Yeah.
that?
You cannot score sweep and clear with force choke.
Oh, really?
It is a unit defeated by an attack.
Oh, by an attack. Okay, I guess I cheated in that game. I apologize to my opponent.
It's
I
okay.
that game was swinging my way anyway, but it was sort of a fun thing that I was doing that obviously was a little bit of cheating. So I do apologize for that one. But otherwise with Dooku, like Mike, what else is there to say about him?
Well, he's 5 points cheaper than Yoda. Um,
Reset the clock.
I think it's maybe the first thing I'd like to say. Um, I mean, I think Trent covered it pretty well there. I mean, he's a monster, you know. I think his 3 pip and 1 pip are, I think, definitely in the top 10 command cards in the game. You
Hmm.
know, I think depending on the situation, they're very likely like the best thing you can have in your hand in a given game. He does have mobility issues. I think the lack of charge or relentless on his unit card is definitely the biggest thing that like you can't just put Count Dooku on the table and expect him to be value. You have to actually kind of know and foresee how to use him. And Direct Trooper is very strong. I think it's probably the thing that kind of elevated him, I think, in the new edition to a place where it's kind of crazy where you're like, I play Dooku's command card, and then I also it like lets CIS play multiple focus pieces.
Yeah,
Which I
because
think
you
is
can
most
you
other
can play
factions
some other
can't do
command
that.
card, and then Dooku's just like, and then I'll order myself, so that way I still
Right.
have word
Yeah.
control.
Yeah, you know, and it's and with with aggressive tactics gone, RIP, you can feel a little bit more free to do that now too,
Yeah.
right? So
Hmm.
um I don't
And
know.
I do agree, Direct Trooper is fantastic. I would argue the keyword that put him over the top though was suppressive on his lightning.
Oh
Mm,
yeah, that is really nice.
Because you can panic two courage units with his 1 pip,
Exactly.
but with just one shot. Um, and I've scored many destroy enemy bases off just like a pick six. I'm just gonna panic you and steal your bomb.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, yeah, God, like being able to just effortlessly do force suppression on a unit with his 1 pip and the lightning is huge. There was a recent game where I did that in an effort to actually panic Operative Luke, which is not that easy. You have to get to 8 for him, and then I accidentally just killed him instead because he blanked out on his defense dice. So
Oops.
I was like, well, I guess I'll take that too. But yeah, you're right. Like adding suppressor to that, and also an extra black dice, right? Like wasn't it 5
Yeah,
black before?
It was, yeah.
Jeez Louise. It's just like the amount of buffs that guy got, absolutely insane. But we should move on. Another character to get buffed with 2.6, who's been sort of like the T-47 on the sort of like the endless slow uphill climb to try to like see when is he going to get like when is this unit going to get to the point that it truly works. I think T-47 getting close. There was a top 8 list that got in there. Grievous, I think you can make the argument that he's there. He certainly has showed up in a lot of like GT winning lists ever since 2.6 came out. He's fairly cheap, and so honestly, I think that the best lists I've seen him in are where he's like the second banana, or even like tied for a third banana with like Asajj and Maul in some wacky lists out there, which have also won GTs by the way. But um, when it comes to Grievous, just what are your general thoughts on this sort of armies that he can work in, Trent?
I love him with B2s for the Ruthless card.
Ah, yeah.
Um, I mean, Grievous he's got the same issues he's always had. He's just like 50 points cheaper, right? So, he's still got courage
Yeah,
issues.
guy really
Yeah.
is.
Um, but I mean, Immune Pierce and some native surge conversion on his melee is is pretty huge bust for him. So yeah, he's still got the courage issues, but he's much better as just like a missile now than he used to be.
Mike, what do you think is the appropriate training choice for Grievous? Because I
I
think
mean,
it's an interesting question.
I definitely think I'm all in on tenacity. I think the issue with one of the issues with Grievous has always been that I don't feel like he really hits hard enough. Every time I get him into melee, he like doesn't do the damage I need him to do. And I don't like his dice pool doesn't look bad, but it ends up being not great a lot of the time, and I feel like tenacity kind of ratchets it up a bit. Um,
That's fair. I think the other like choices to consider are endurance, into the fray, up close and personal. Where do you come down on that, Trent?
I am also fully team tenacity.
Okay.
Now that he has a gear slot and you can take prepared supplies,
Yeah,
you
that's
got
fair.
you got surge conversion for your prepared supplies, and then his one pip gives him a dodge. So you should have your surge block on most of the turns that matter. And yeah, um, endurance I usually prefer strict orders, and then like lead by example, hanging around somewhere over endurance. Just timing wise, it's a lot more
and
flexible.
yeah, endurance just like doesn't prevent him from being suppressed like in the middle of the turn, which is when it
Exactly.
matters.
That's fair. That's fair.
You I
Yeah, I
do
like
think
that.
that like I feel like the major like change to him was supposed to be like the entourage thing. This update, and I feel like it didn't really get there because like everything in CIS is so good that nobody takes Magna Guard ever. Uh,
Yeah, it was big before comms relay went away, but now that comms relay is gone, it's less
Yeah.
yeah.
less
Yeah.
big of a deal.
Yeah. Having a magnet that could be whatever order you want it to be was actually pretty nice. And now that's not something you can do anymore. It is funny because, like magnet guards are still they're still very good. It's and maybe it's just a testament to the embarrassment of riches that CIS has that they're often not showing up in lists. Like, you compare a Magna Guard to like all of the non-arc special forces in Republic, and it seems like significantly better than all of them, right? I mean,
Well,
it's not bad at all.
I think it's a unit that suffers, and maybe we could just jump into special forces after this. I don't know. But like it
Yeah.
feels like a unit that everything around it, like in the game's melee pools, became better, and like the melee specialist unit just like sat here and like watched the arc melee pool go up, and all these other melee pools go up. Like B2s have like a pretty good melee pool now, and it's like the Magnas are sitting here with 4 models, wondering when they're gonna throw more than 8 dice in melee. I don't know. Just for like 100 point unit, like it doesn't feel like it gets the melee, like for being a melee specialist, which is what it is. Um, it doesn't really feel like a melee specialist in the new edition. I feel like I don't know.
I don't know. I know for me, the rocket was the reason I took him, and that got hit extremely hard to where it's not really worth it in my opinion now. I have run just like little 3-man squads a little bit, and I've
It's
found
40
some success with
points.
that, but I think Decas are just better.
Yikes.
Yeah. Yeah. We will certainly get to that one. Yeah, I think let's just keep talking about special forces since we're here. Um, the one thing I will mention with the Magna Guard is that I have tried it out and it doesn't end up being relevant as much as you'd like think that it is. But with the changes to immobilize in such a way that you can't withdraw, which is significant. The whip like did gain some utility with that. And when you look at the grand scheme of things, paying 22 for a whip, it doesn't like that does feel like a pretty good deal. But I think that you just end up in this place where there are better ways to spend that 100 points in CIS, even though it's not like terrible at all. Um, so let's shift over to talking about this is weird. It's because like in GAR there are like four actual separate units of special forces, and yet we only use one of them. Uh, but then CIS, like I think I always forget about this, that it is literally just Magna Guards and Commandos, and then the Commandos have the strike team option. So that's like a little bit sad. I wish that they had a couple more options than that. But
Yeah, you got probes in there too.
oh yeah, probes. That's right. That's right. That's fair. I think it was just like yeah, it was tricking me because I didn't have like a mall pulled up on TTA. But we'll talk about the probe droids when we talk about mall here in a second. But when it comes to commandos, they are obviously not the mega stupid powerhouse that they were in the battle days of EXD. But they're consistently annoying when I run up against them. They don't seem to like really kill a lot of models, but they seem to last a little while. And then they have like multiple configurations where they work. But like, what are your general thoughts on Commandos, Trent?
Um, I think they're fine for what they do. They're a little squishy for like a assault unit, in my opinion. Um, but the I think it really comes down to everybody in the meta has either dodges or armor right now, so the snipers are
Hmm.
kind of useless. Um, I think in a different meta, like a Gar heavy meta or Empire heavy meta, you start to see them a lot more just for the Pierce. But right
Yeah.
now, I don't I don't see a ton of use for them. But I
What
know that
a what about the mine?
I think the mine's great. I mean, but you're looking at 100.5 health unit. Um, you know, it's a little risky. It could work. I've used it before. It works, but it's not the most consistent thing you're gonna find.
Yeah, mine and Vibra Swords is 98. Um, and it packs a real punch if it like actually gets in there. And the poison is certainly nice, but it does have to get in there. And so and all it takes is like it could get shot by like an MPL rebel trooper once, and then that unit is like screwed for the whole game, pretty much. So yeah, it feels risky, but like when it gets in there, that mine unit is pretty solid. I know that like another thing that people do sometimes is just to run it naked with vibro swords, or just like
I just run them. I
just
run
run them
them
naked with
naked.
nothing.
Yep.
Yeah. Which is that's what, 68?
64.
64. Okay. It's not terrible.
It's kind of like a
Um,
range 3 like arc unit at that point.
yeah.
Naked arc unit, obviously. You don't have charge and stuff, but like you're getting like similar amounts of value, right? Scout 3 is still insane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fine. It's not bad by any means.
Is that generally where you land, Mike? Is like ignore the strike teams and run them naked if you're gonna
Sometimes I
run them?
actually take straight like I take like one or two naked units, and depending on how I'm feeling that day, I take like a strike team or two. Because the strike teams are only 60 points. And like, yes, that's a lot for a strike team, but for CIS can kind of stomach, a 60 point, pad unit pretty easily. I feel like out of all the factions, CIS has the most like wiggle room on where they can, put their points into stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you're paying between 60 to 75 points for a unit, you're like generally feeling pretty decent about it.
Yeah, that's fair.
If you got 14 activations, having like a one-off sniper team is not terrible if you um and the sniper is a lot better in the current edition as opposed to it was. Like, yes, this is the most expensive one, but it's the most expensive one for like I think a really good reason. AI no basically doesn't matter on this thing. So
Right. AI
getting
used to matter a lot for the sniper.
yeah, and you have like mass exemplar in the CIS faction. So getting these things aims to just give Pierce 1 to the 2 red sniper rifle is like pretty easy. Obviously, it has issues with dodges. but I don't know.
Yeah. I think that part of what it comes down to for me is that okay, so like a strike team, when you have the sniper, so that's 50 points. That
It's
actually
it's it's
that's
60,
that's
right?
not it's 50. Or no, sorry. It's 60.
Yeah. But like realistically, like if you compare the Separatist strike team to let's say like the Echo strike, I
Right.
don't think they're that different in offensive output, frankly. Like
No, that's true, but we also aren't really playing Echo.
no, totally, but like like the Echo strike team was pretty good, right? It used to
Yeah.
be. This unit is 20 points cheaper and basically does the same thing. It's got one less wound, which is not nothing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really need the reliable tokens. And it doesn't need critical because it surges on offense anyways. So I don't know. I think separatist snipers are like coming in like as far as like the sniper lottery, this is the best strike team that is available in the game right now.
Well, for 60 points though, and this we're gonna do another sick transition. You could also get
But before we
uh,
do another
okay.
unit transition though, we
Yeah.
forgot we forgot a we forgot a hobbly old man in the commander slot.
I thought it was on purpose because it's what he deserves.
You know what? Let's pile all of the insect talk into when we get to them as a core unit, and then we'll add in the other two. We'll do
Okay.
that.
All right.
That is my bad. I apologize. Um, but yes, speaking of, I'm going to start over, Mike. Speaking of 60 points, that'll get you a unit of Droidicas, which is pretty good, right, Trent?
Yeah, I mean, arguably the best unit in the game, I would say. Um,
I would hear that argument.
you could debate between the Rebel ATRT and the Droideka, but
Hmm.
it's extremely good, incredibly good. Yes.
You have to invest effort into taking them down. By which I mean you usually need at least like two shots to take a model away. Um, even like it's a unit where even like giving it your best like 7, 8 dice shot is like gonna have like somewhat of a chance to both get the shields down and take a model away, but not an amazing chance. And you're also not going to damage it because they don't have a wound threshold because it's just two models. And so it creates this weird situation where you're often like disincentivized from trying to shoot it down, except for melee, of course. That's definitely the way to take care of them very quickly. But um, I I can't count how many times already, playing CIS for a few months that my opponent will like try to take a big shot at one and then they end up getting through the shields and doing like a wound to the actual mini. And then later that round I hide it. And then your opponent just sort of realizes that they completely wasted that attack. Because by the time it's in trouble again, it's gonna have like two shields back, and then your opponent has to do the math all over again. It's just for 60 points, it's insane. And then of course there's the suppressive. Uh, it still doesn't do a ton of damage, but with the change to cover rules, it can do damage sometimes, right? I mean, it's
Yeah,
not like the
I
old
mean, it's not
days.
bad.
Yeah. It used to be sort of a joke in terms of like the typical deca shot would be that you would hit with your reds and then you would have a blank and a surge on your black dice and you you like get two suppression in and nothing else gets done, so it didn't really seem worth it at the time. But but now that shot is like doing a wound often. Like and then there's wheel mode, right? I guess like here's an interesting question. Given that you're an experienced CIS player, what is the mental math that you do in terms of deploying them, especially with regards to like like how you're arraying them out, how are you using wheel mode, like when is it worth the risk to do that? Obviously, like when you need to like score a point, you have to score a point, but when you're in that approach, like how do you usually do things with the Droidicas?
I usually want them always to be able to um, run on back points with wheel mode, just to keep that mental load on the opponent that you have to think about that Droidica might just be gone, and now he's on my back intercept or my, you know, they're always scoring the back recover point. Um, and then for like shifting and stuff, you want them to be able to threaten multiple points at the same time,
Hmm.
usually on the flanks. Uh, but then sometimes, if they over defend, you just like, all right, I'm just gonna shoot, now your units are stuck back there, and
Yeah.
that's fine. It's all about putting the pressure on with the droidicas.
Mike, I mean, what else is there to say about Droidicas? They're incredible.
Yeah, they're really good. I think this is a unit that really benefited from the
Free pivot,
free pivot
totally.
when it moves, right? Like I think that was one of the things that was really holding the Droidekas back. This unit also has gained major stock with the closeness of the new objectives. There's a lot more previously, like its movement range was limited in that oftentimes you had to kind of like push your opponent with the droidekas, which was tough because it was like a lot of double moving shenanigans.
Yeah.
But with how everything works now, like they're generally moving under your droideka's guns pretty quickly. So I don't know. I think they're great. I hope they really don't get nerfed too hard. I know that they are really good. Um, and I
Don't
know
you think
that,
they could just be 65 and then we can call it a day?
I
they
think they need at
could.
least 70, but yeah.
I mean, I think, yeah, I'm nervous that like 70 puts them like maybe back into the like not efficient camp enough. Just with the like the change to commandos, which didn't feel like it should have like basically taken commandos completely off the table. Like seems like it did, and I think small adjustments are better here. If they're gonna change them, I'd like to see it at 65. And if there's still a problem, we can like ratchet them up to 70. This unit's gonna get changed. I think there's no question in my mind about that.
It is funny that Droidicas were also on that like steady but very slow uphill climb ever since release when they were, as a reminder, they were 100 points when they released.
They've literally
Uh,
never been good. Like this is the first time anybody has put Droidekas like on the table. Like seriously, I've been playing this game since it came out. Like this is I'm loving it. I'm like, I've got these things have been like sitting on my shelf collecting dust since I bought my Clone Wars starter sets, and now I'm like
yeah,
actually playing them. And I think
yeah,
that's great. I think this is
it
like
is good.
one of those separatist units that like it should be on the table all the time. That's the reason it was in a core set, right? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
I agree. Like I'm very glad that they're very effective. But it is funny that yeah, their points slowly inched down, and I think they were at 70 before 2.6 hit. But it was even more than the points change. It was the various rules changes, like all of which benefited Droidicas.
yeah.
The AI, the cover change, the free pivot, the
Yeah, we
changing
didn't even
nature
really
of
talk about
objectives.
AI with these
Yeah,
guys yet. Like AI
yeah,
was like it was very difficult to get orders to your Tridekas. So you were always almost on
yeah.
AI, right?
Uh, Yeah, and if you have a T series, then you do have a way to get them surge tokens on attack for those relatively few times that's like sort of the best thing to do with those surge tokens. But yeah, they and then like suppresso just matters more than it used to. So that's like all these little things that got piled in together on a 60-point unit. Means that it is pretty good. There are other options, of course, in the support slot. Um, let's start with whatever the opposite of dessert is. Stap riders. Trent, what do stap riders need? Or are you going to give us the hot take that stap riders are actually good and that all of us are a bunch of dummies?
I think Step Riders would be a lot better if Droidicas didn't exist.
That's true.
That's going to be true of everything
There,
on
I
this
think you can
Yeah.
still
list.
use step writers. Yeah, yeah, you're not wrong. Um, but yeah, step writers, they're all right. Um, they're squishy. I think someone did really well at Worlds. I was meaning to look them up and shout them out, but I forgot and I apologize. But I think you can do well with step writers. They're just you just gotta be really careful with them.
There were steps in the JR Dieter like Geonosian like pile-in list at LVO earlier this year, to basically just like turn the entire list into a triple move onto whatever point you need to do list, which, you know, I get it in that context. It feels like a lot for 80 points, or it feels like not enough for 80 points, just like generally. Uh,
I'm not
or
convinced of that. I think this is the speeder bike that I think
they die
is
so fast.
it does, but I think that we have not seen the evolution of um like the super precise like bombing run type like stat play that we saw in the previous edition. It's definitely, I think you definitely can still do things like that in the new edition. I just don't think many people have tried it yet. And I think that the fact that like you can have complete order control on all your speeder bikes still is still super powerful. Like that's one of the major issues with speeder bikes in general is that having order control on them when they're not really your focus pieces in the you know, in the new edition you've got to have something in your list that's not speeder bikes that hits like a truck that you are ordering all the time. Like you can still like play Dooku, have play as one pip and have orders on all your staffs without an uplink, you know. Like that is still a thing you can do. And because you've also got Kalani, right? Like probably.
Right, but Kalani would need to be within two of that first step, like in order to order it. So like if they're off doing their own thing, you wouldn't be able to get that done. You would need an HQ because long range comlink is gone,
Yep.
which was a bit of a stab nerf. And so that means that you do need one of them to have an HQ, and then you can have like LTA and the other two is sort of like the old standard of that. Um,
You
but
could.
that's
I'm
even more
not sure
points
you want to be
investment.
like tossing extra points on them,
Yeah, that's
but
right,
but
exactly.
I do think like having them within two of Kalani is really not that big of an ask.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
and you only need one that's within
right.
two, and then you can use cohesion to like make that chain go out pretty far. I think I do think that it is actually kind of a limitation to make it so that you do need to kind of keep them together in order to squeeze the most value out of them, because part of the part of the appeal of a triple speeder list is that they can go where they need to go, and sometimes that means like splitting up. And yeah, like it may just be that the level of play required for staffs is like fairly high, and so that means that certainly for somebody like me, but even like for a lot of others, it is very difficult to like get that extra value. But
It's a
even
super high skill cap piece. Like you
yeah,
shouldn't put this on the board unless you're like really sure you can do something with it.
and even if you are sure you can do something with them, you're like looking over at Droidicas, and you're like, well, is,
Probably, yeah.
is this the choice I should be making?
Yeah.
But I think maybe a slightly more common choice that people are going to be making between like this thing and Droidicas would be uh, spider droids. Spider droids have they did get an upgrade in a sense that the ion blaster is no longer a just like all the other ion weapons is no longer fresh. So that's cool. And the changes to AI also have certainly benefited them. Although weirdly, now the spider droid is one of the units that's maybe most vulnerable to AI. Because if you try to like post up an ion at the far edge of the map, then it may actually be at a place where it's more than range 3 away from your commander. But of course, you can just choose not to do that, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore. But and then there are other options. I guess I'm going to ask you first, Trent. The change to self destruct. Uh, how do you think that affected the value of the flamer specifically?
I never used it anyways.
Okay,
So
fair.
it's worse, but I mean, it can give multiple suppression
Yeah.
in one shot, which is kind of interesting, but of making them shoot you one more time is more than you'd get from a explosion. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. But I don't know, like do any of the spider droids catch your eye in like general list making right now, or do you think they need something more, Trent?
I loved the ion spiders before Aquas came out.
Mm,
I've stopped using them as much since Aqua's release because they kind of fill that same slot of anti-armor.
yeah.
Um, and then I think the flamer spiders are good. They're especially with defensive protocols, they're very tanky for their price, and they're good. It's just it's hard to not take Droidicus is the reality of the situation.
Yep. So, Mike, do you have anything on spiders?
Uh, no. I think yeah. Take Droidicus. Be happy.
Well, let's move on to the other arthropod. So crab droids, most recent addition to the support slot. They do have Scouting Party 1, which is cool. I think that the what's weird is that with aqua droids, in the sense that you get to like start the game with a wall, the importance having of being able to like give Scout 1 to whatever unit you want, it seems like it went down a little bit because now you can just like double move more aggressively than you used to be able to do. At least that's sort of the way that I feel about it. And then, once it gets into the field, it's a 5 health red save. It's harder to get them surge tokens on defense now. It has like a decent weapons choice, the more expensive one, especially. It's like it's fairly tanky. It seems like it does a lot of things like fairly well. Uh, but I mean, Trent, is there have you found any situations where you're glad that you had an aqua instead of a deca? Or sorry, a crab droid instead of a deca, I should say.
One, and that is when I'm running a super Geonosian squad. Um,
Ah, okay.
uh, the so the Scout one really only matters if you have about a range 4 threat range. Because if you have range 3, you're not going to get there anyways, and you have range 5, you're probably going to be fine either way.
Yeah.
And if you're not using the scouting party, then just take a spider. It's going to be better. Um, so the super Geonosian can deliver a punch threat. So I think that's a good take with those.
So you're talking about doing a scout one and then doing a double move shoot um is is something that you're able to do with a super geo squad, and then if you're doing it from high ground, then you get to basically do it with blast. Yeah, I could see that being pretty mean. It's not something I thought about before. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's not consistent at all, but
Yeah, it's
sometimes
very
you'll
dicey.
That's
sometimes
Yeah.
how
you'll hit
that's
that
how I
like
would talk
six
about
crits.
Geos in total. Uh, the dice.
Yeah, so yeah, maybe that's a good transition point. So like let's talk about Genotions. We're talking about them now. And we'll pile in all the players here. So we'll start with the main core unit because I think that that's the one that is generally most commonly chosen. There's obviously multiple ways that you can do this. You can have a couple as sort of a utility piece to be able to not have to worry about the order chain, and then they just like kind of exist to get to whatever point they need to get to, but will probably spend most of the game hiding for dear life, since they die extraordinarily quickly. But then running, like you just told us about the option to run maybe a single super squad as a strike piece, or of course you can like start running them en masse. It's one of the more decent super squad choices out there, just like generally. Um, what is Like, what's your favorite way to run Geonosians for you, Trent?
I run all kinds of I run the scatter, I run the spears, I run the big squads. I usually like having just one or two sprinkled
Yeah,
in, little speed infusion into the army, beyond the just, there's a lot of value in, even if you don't do it, making your opponent have to consider you just like sprinting
triple
over to
moving.
some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like Mike, you mentioned the roulette wheel. It does maybe feel like the most like leave it up to the dice gods unit that's out there.
Yeah, I mean, like it's just black, white, not surging, 4 health. I think it's in the running for like the best naked core unit in the game.
Hmm.
I think is it definitely could give some of the other units a run for its money, and it definitely can do things that no other unit in the game can, right? Which I think is a big strong suit. I have two naked geos in basically every CIS list I put together. It used to be like 5 B1s. Now I'm on like 3 B1s, 2 geos,
Yeah.
is kind of my where I start. But I think Trent's right. There's a lot of different configurations. My preferred one is just the Geonosian Warrior. It checks it up to 56 and it's throwing 10 dice. 10 dice for a 56 point unit is like they can double move and shoot is it's pretty good, you know.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
but it is a roulette wheel. Sometimes you have one hit and sometimes there are nine, and it's not, it's like a Omega Z6 is kind of how it feels. It's like,
Um, what's the reasoning for not upgrading to a spear? Because the extra suppression in melee I find.
I don't know. I like to keep them cheap and lean. And I try to keep them out of melee as much as possible.
I will say, Mike, the force pike is only 4 points more than the warrior.
Yeah, I mean, once you take it on like, 2 to 5 units though, that's
Yeah, it adds
that's
up for
20
sure.
points, right? Um, I don't know. I definitely I don't put these guys in melee like ever. That's maybe me being too cautious, but I feel like these guys just immediately die to anything in the game in
Well, I
melee.
think it would be more for the overrun, probably. Like, if you're getting the free move, and
Sure.
you wouldn't necessarily want to lodge them in melee, like you said, but you can be doing a free move that'll get you a couple extra dice and usually a suppression. It's not an amazing overrun attack or anything. But yeah, I think that would probably be the configuration I'd use it most in, rather than trying to make them a melee unit. Because you're right, they're not good at that. uh, generally. We mentioned the relative unreliability of the attack dice, but a way you can make them more reliable is to put a commander in who has, I believe, two commands that do make their dice somewhat more reliable. Like there's one that gives them surge to hit, and then there's one that gives them some free tokens, I think. That would be Poggle the Lesser. Trent, are you Team Poggle the Lesser or Team Poggle the Greater?
I don't know who Poggle the Greater is necessarily, but I am not Team Poggle the Lesser, so I'll say both.
I guess I'm saying is like, do you think Poggle is typically worth the investment? It sounds like no.
No, is kind of the short answer. Um, his four pip that brings back B2s can be good. His I've seen a lot of people praise the two pip. I don't know if I just don't get it, or like you're getting an aim and a dodge on activation.
Yeah.
So, you're not saving yourself from getting smoked right off rip. And you lose your direct from Sunfac. You only get one order, so they have to be all grouped up together. I don't get that card. And then the one pip, putting Poggle at range two of a bunch of stuff seems like a bad decision if you want a live Poggle.
Yeah. He dies really, really, really fast.
Um,
Um,
he's Courage 3, but I would rather a T series almost every time. and you know.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that, the maybe like the one argument for him is if you're truly running like full geospam to the point uh where like you are getting like a ton of mileage out of both those cards, but even then it seems risky. Um but yeah, like I think in anything that's not a geospam, I think it's like a really tough sell for Poggle. Um
He's such an awkward unit because he like you kind of want to be on the full geospam thing, but he also wants you to take droid troopers. And
right.
Right.
it's like a very weird design thing. I don't know.
Yeah, you either run him in B2 spam or Geo spam and you lose half his kit either way. And
Yeah.
it just doesn't really make sense in my opinion.
I used to just like run a one-off naked B2 and like stick a comms relay on it, but you can't do
Can't do
that
that no more,
anymore.
Mike.
So
Uh, and on that note, we're gonna quickly dip into operative before we finish up the core talk. But Sunfac, is there anything nice that you can say about Sunfac? And remember, if
Absolutely.
okay, go ahead.
I can say so many nice things about Sunfact.
Please go ahead.
So I was talking with Mike about this a little before you joined, but I'm currently 3-0 with a Sunfact list in Invader,
All
and I'm
right.
also taking him down the Rocky Top this weekend. So
Okay.
I'll have to back up my words a little bit here, but his one pip is an outstanding card in general. Um, and the best thing about him is that he's still speed 2, unlike Poggle.
Mm.
He still gets the 3 moves, and he's only 1 mini to hide. So you can hide him very effectively, unlike just like a regular Geo Squad, it's a little harder to hide. And he can move all
Yeah.
over the map. And it puts a ton of pressure. Um, puts a ton of pressure. And then, you know, he's got he's got direct. He's pretty solid.
So to his, I'm looking at his one pip again because I'll just fully admit that it's not something that I see very often. So this does, um, like, does this allow him to move 4 times in a turn?
He doesn't get the jump.
Oh, he doesn't get the jump.
yeah,
No.
it's just
The
basically
allied
core
Genos and
units.
warriors do.
Yeah.
Got it.
So you can make like maybe an aggressive play at the end of a turn and then use this to like yank people back or you know, I
And the
guess
best part about it is you get to see if you have priority first. So you don't have to yank them back. So
right.
you can see if you have priority. If you don't, you just put them in safety. If you do, you can stay out and go do
It's
something else.
it's very similar to Lando's new ability to move people at the start of
Yeah.
the activation phase.
Right.
Um,
But it's
it's really
speed too.
good. Yes, yeah. I feel like I just wish he wasn't an operative, man. Like I wish I could take Sun Fac as my commander as opposed to Poggle. I'd be happy with that, you know. Um, but I feel like he's like lacking like a little something for an operative, you know. He's got all the Callus keywords, but he's still more expensive than Callus.
He is.
And just like, I don't know, an operative where you're maxing out on 3 dice of offensive output. It just it just seems tough.
Yeah, it's like
Right? I
playing
mean,
Padme for
ouch, ouch. Still
Death
too
from
soon.
above at range 3 is much easier to pull off, I will say.
Yeah, that's
that's
fair.
fair.
I mean, yeah, certainly the fact that he is a very mobile single model uh, unit. So that where he can do the full triple move and also be very hideable. Like I can definitely see the value there. Because like you're not talking about trying to use him to like kill models. That's not really what he does. But he is a very mobile piece who is not incredibly easy to take out. So yeah, I mean, I can see it. Like, do you? But then, to get utility out of his one pip, he does need to have, and also his like unit card, he needs to like be with other Geonosians, in order to like really get that utility out. So I mean, like, do you see situations where Sunfac would go into a list that otherwise doesn't have any Geos in it?
If you came down a couple points, maybe.
Okay, okay.
Um, I think you need to be utilizing the one pip right now to play him.
Yeah, I think that's fair. All right. Cool. So yeah, let's rotate back to talking about the rest of the core options. So we were talking a little bit about B2s and the fact that they obviously have uh, some synergy with Poggle, but of course B2s just fine on their own. They are maybe uh, the best argument for a super squad because of like the raw like health value that you get out of them compared to other super squads in the game. Especially in EXD, right? Because if you can only take two of them anyway, then there's like an incentive to just like maximize them. Um, I think they took a little bit of a hit with the loss of aggressive tactics, in that they really do love to have surge tokens. And now it is harder to get access to them generally. But even just like the B2 with the ACM still seems like a really strong choice. What's your default way to run B2s in your list, Trent?
I either do just the ACM or an ACM in a T series generally.
Yeah,
Um,
I like because that gives them a search token for sure.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and then was there was some clarification about sidearm, I believe, where um if they're in melee, the T series can actually use the double black blaster,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is pretty great because he's
It's a
just like
nice
borrowing
little
his neighbor's
fun.
double black gun. So yeah, I
Uh,
mean that's pretty cool.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, I mean, so I guess like, have you experimented much with the super squad thing? Where do you come down on it for B2s?
To me, it's too many points for a unit that honestly doesn't one-shot stuff very often. Um, like the dice pool's good, but I would not feel confident rocking up to something and being like, yeah, this is gonna take this, 5-man arc off the board or something like that. Like it could, and then it gets shut down by melee pretty decently. Like you can dictate what that thing kills by just running like your naked core unit in the melee with it. So
That's fair. And then it's a lot of points investment that sort of gets wasted. So yeah, I could see that for sure. Yeah, Mike, where do you come down in B2s in this day and age?
I think people were like, "Oh my God, B2 Super Squad, super mega amazing," and then they realize that they only throw two extra black dice over a sleeper cell, and they don't get free aim
Well,
tokens.
when you put it that way.
or surge.
Yeah, and they don't search to hit.
um like and they're 140 points instead of 75, like obviously, I don't know, you can take two sleeper cells almost for one of these, and obviously we're like crossing faction lines and stuff, but I just think these things are way too expensive. I think it falls in the
Wow,
super
way too
squad.
expensive.
Super squads are still too expensive. I don't know.
But I mean, so putting the super aside though, like, if we're talking about the B2 ACM, like where do you come down there?
Think it's okay. I think it's still a little bit too expensive. Again, it's
Hmm.
90 points for something that, you know, throws less dice than a sleeper cell. I don't know.
It does live
I
very long though for
they
a 90
they're
point unit.
they're very resilient. If you want a resilient core, I think that they're a good choice. They don't kill stuff is the thing. Like I think people expect these units to like act like they do in the movies and like just mow down everything they touch, and that is not how they feel. Um,
You think you're buying Black Sun and you're not.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, and I think I don't know. To me, they're a little too expensive. I get that you get extra health and stuff out of them. But I don't know. I played a bunch of CIS lists since the new edition. The amount of them that have B2s in them are zero. Because I just don't think they've got what it takes, and at least in comparison to the other options. I think CIS has got really good options for core.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
And including, maybe the best reason to take a mercenary out of any of the core factions. We may as well just like talk about that now. Trent, you had two Black Sun Enforcers in your World's Runner-Up lists. They were both, I believe, I know they had stems, and then did they also both have the Vigo and the shotgun, I assume?
Yeah, Vigo and a shotgun. Yep.
Yeah.
Um,
So fully kitted out. Remind me, what's the cost of that? Do you remember?
I think they're like 108 or something with
I can
the
tell you, I've got it pulled up. It's
impact
98
grenades
plus
on there.
stims. So you had impact on there too?
Yeah,
So that'd be
they were beefy
109
units.
with
Yeah,
impact
so
grenades. But um yeah, so like what was what was sort of the journey of deciding that you were gonna have two BSEs in that list?
um, I saw because I was running double ACM um repair bot guys for 100 points,
Yeah.
and those were doing pretty good out on a flank. But when the repair bots went up 10 points, I was like, well, the medics are still really cheap, so let's try Black Sun. And I was like, oh, these guys kill stuff. These aren't these are not the B2s. They'll put something in the ground.
Yeah.
And then stims just uh lets the timing of the medics. If the medics go already in the round, you can just pop stims and then heal them next round. So
Yeah, that makes
that
sense.
so
Yeah,
yeah.
that's smart. Did you ever I'm just curious, did you ever have to use the medics to save Dooku from an untimely death, or were you always reviving Black Suns with them?
Oh yeah, it just Dooku's obviously the number one priority. If he takes a couple cheap wounds, you want to heal him up. But
Yeah. Yeah.
um
But yeah,
yeah.
I think BSCs they obviously can certainly roll an Empire also, but like Mike was talking about the points flexibility that you have in CIS earlier, and so like you can create the gaps that you need to in order to just like have a couple BSCs that are real bruisers, and like you said, the CIS medic is still very cheap. And like weirdly enough, using BSCs is like the best way to take advantage of that. And plus, like we mentioned, for your hero commanders, it can save them from going out in round two, which would usually make you very, very sad. Um, and then, uh, and then of course, there's B1s. Like
Yeah.
B1s, they give you order control. They are a unit that has 6 health, even though their saves are crap. But even just like having 6 health in and of itself can mean can take them out of one-shot territory from a variety of units. Like I, there have now been multiple times where my opponents had Commander Luke, and I'm sitting on a point with a B1 unit, and I'm just like, you can't kill me this round, no matter what you do,
Oh,
which is pretty nice. But
there's yeah.
yeah, they're obviously very versatile, but um, the naked one, obviously, there's still a ton of utility to it, or the naked plus HQ uplink. My question for you, Trent, where do you come down on the heavies for B1s?
I like the E5S and the Rad Cannon. I think they're both decent. Um,
E5S is sort of strange in that there was this like huge period of time in Legacy Legion where it like felt like it was the only choice because it was the one that would get past cover, and then obviously that did change with the 2.6. It seemed like the 5S value was sort of dipping away. But like I guess like what is it about E5S that pushes it over the edge compared to like an E5C that I think like is like a couple points cheaper, and then it's like very similar raw damage output. But yeah, what is it that sort of puts you over the edge there?
Surge conversion.
Yeah,
You're rolling 8 dice, you're probably gonna have a surge in there. So it's um and then crits are still good, you know. Cover dice can still block. There's a lot of dodges around, there's a lot of armor around, you know. Critical
gets through
still a great
backup.
gets through backup, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
And then you usually get a range 4 shot with the E5S, not every game, but you know, on round one, that's something that you're not getting with any of the other heavies. So
yeah. I think that's fair. And then the rad cannon, it's definitely like the people's choice. Uh, it's very fun, and it always feels like um you're sort of like playing Legion the way that the devs wanted it to be played, by just like YOLOing out with this unit that has like 2 red dice and then a bunch of other crap, and you're sort of like hoping that one hit gets through so that you can get that sweet poison token on it. Um, that that's another one that, I mean, B1s in general got a little bit tougher with aggressive tactics going away, right? Because now with those rag cannon shots, you used to be able to just like chain orders and reliably have a surge token on each one to make it go through. Um, but I mean, despite that, I think that I was hearing you talk to Mike at the beginning, like before we started the podcast, about the fact that you also have rag cannons in your Sun fact list. Is that correct?
just one, yeah.
Just one, okay.
I find that it's a great unit to have just stand next to T series because you want one next to T series anyways to give the T series orders.
Right.
And then if you give it a surge, it's like probably gonna give a poison out if it gets a shot off. So, you know.
Yeah. Uh, and then Mike, in terms of how you build B1s, have you messed around with heavy weapons at all, or are you just like throwing naked B1s in there?
I have messed around with heavy weapons. I've thrown them in the garbage bin, and I have gone straight for my B1s are never wearing any clothes ever. They're going into battle with no armor. I've found the naked B1 unit is maybe like most improved in like this new world, as opposed to like what it used to be. Um, they are incredibly good for 38 points. And 6 white dice, like you're gonna get 1 or 2 hits every time you throw those dice, you know? And like that's fine. That's totally cool. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
sometimes you roll 5 and your opponent is pissed.
It is the worst feeling in the world for a naked B1 to just like take down Luke Skywalker,
I mean,
uh, which is a
yeah.
thing that I have had done to me, with Anakin specifically, but also a thing that I've done to other people, and it feels great.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like I think the last time my B1s did something like that, they rolled up and like deleted 80% of an arc unit, and I was like, yeah, okay, that feels good.
It just
You know,
happens
it
sometimes.
just happens, and it's like, they are obviously like they've got a pretty high floor for like their utility, but they've got an extremely high ceiling if you hit the jackpot,
Yeah.
for 38 points. And I think one of the bigger things is that having coordinate on core units and like a lot of direct in your list allows you to like almost always make sure you go first on turn one with like units that don't matter.
Oh,
Um,
it's so huge to just
with,
like have all of your first activations be chucking B1s onto the board.
yeah, it's just like obviously you need to like be a little bit cognizant of them like getting suppressed if you're playing like bring them to heal or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But like, but man, it is so good to just be like absolutely certain that your game plan is not going to get screwed up by your bag on turn one, and like just have complete and utter control over the top and the bottom of that turn.
Yep. Absolutely. Uh, so trends like
And
zooming
an
out. Oh,
underrated s
yeah. Good.
sorry.
Wait. Sorry. Go
An
ahead.
underrated aspect of them, like what Mike was saying, when you put them on the board early,
Yeah.
because a droid trooper, you can put them 2 moves away from a POI and you'll always be able to contest it because they're not going to get suppressed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That yeah, like that truly is like a really great thing. And then, and then to take them out of it, you would have to panic them, which, if you have Dooku means that you're putting six suppression on them. And then yeah, you get in this situation where it's true that like with concentrated fire, they're easy to take out, but then with six health, you do need to like put some effort into it. And yeah, it just feels like they're worth their points every time. Zooming out a little bit, Trent, like if you had a CIS list that was otherwise like the most generic list that you can imagine, um, what would be what's sort of like your average starting choice when it comes to the various core options you have, because you do have an embarrassment of riches in CIS. But like what's your typical like starting choice in terms of how you array those?
I'm usually 3B1s and in a Geonosian or two is kind of how it ends up shaking out.
Okay. Yeah, I
Um,
think that's very reasonable. Um, yeah,
Unless I'm
God.
doing something special, like trying something specific.
Yeah. Coordinate droid trooper is just such a ridiculously good keyword.
It's so
Uh,
good.
yeah, it's kind of amazing just like how much mileage this unit has got. Which I think is testament to the fact that it was just very well designed from the outset. So props to FFG for making that call back in the day. Um, let's we'll close out with
Oh,
operative.
hold up,
Yeah,
hold up.
hang on, go ahead,
Hold your
Michael.
horses. If you're gonna talk about Black Sun, you got to talk about Pikes. You're not allowed to just
Oh,
like
right.
forget
Trent, Pike
the other
Troopers,
mercs.
go.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever actually run Pike Troopers in CIS.
There you go,
I
Mike.
Okay.
I've thought about it a lot, but I don't think I've.
I just, if we're gonna talk about mercenaries as if they're part of
I
the
no,
faction,
that's fair. I remember seeing Pikes show up back in the day when they were ridiculously undercosted.
yes.
They would show up and as like a two of in some like spammy CIS lists. But ever since then, I don't think I've seen them.
In the Pike's defense, CIS was the place that they were taking the least. So
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I think we're gonna end with we'll end with operative just because that way we're talking about the characters at the beginning and the end. So let's switch over to heavy. Let's just talk about the elephant in the room, so to speak. Aqua droids. Are they the best heavy in the game right now, Trent?
Ooh, best heavy in the game. So what are you competing with? Like a bus, maybe? What would be second in
what
your
could
mind?
possibly
It's
compete
it,
with
it,
that?
it is it is funny that you have to like scratch your head is like what actually competes with Aqua droids in terms of
Oh,
efficiency.
land speeders. Land speeders are really good.
Yeah, like Land Speeder and Bus are probably at this point the number like those feel like a good top three to me.
Yeah. Aqua droids are extremely good in the first two rounds of the game. They're probably like you're gonna get a shot off turn one, you're gonna get a shot off turn two, you're gonna block all your important pieces from getting shot.
Yeah,
I do think they're a little bit overrated, having played a bunch of games with them. Uh, they like if stuff goes wrong, they're very hard to maneuver. Um, in a way, like they're hard to recover with,
yeah,
and they're more terrain dependent than you would think. Uh, because if they have to take basically a straight line to where they need to be.
yeah, for sure.
So if there's a big thing in the way, that can be a problem. Uh, the other thing with them is a lot of times I feel like I'm blocking shots that I wouldn't have gotten hit with anyways. Like you're jumping in front of a bullet that would have missed. So, you know, you're allowing your opponent to get shots that they wouldn't have been able to take, but you're blocking shots with them, but it's not really blocking because they wouldn't have been able to take the shots anyways. So I think I don't know, it's weird. I think one Aqua Droid is like you almost have to take it. They're just too cheap and they're gonna get great shots, but I'm leaning away from double Aqua Droids because I think it doubles down on their weaknesses a little bit too much.
Hmm. I will say that if you have a if you have a plan to like maximize the Aqua Alpha with if you have Kalani and then you're doing a so that you direct on one and then you're standing orders to the other one, and then they both have LTAs, and then on Kalani you can give him emergency comms so that when he does a move strategize, like he can share an aim token with both of the aqua shots that way, uh, like one aim token each, on top of the fact that like they would have an aim from LTA, and it does. And full disclosure, this is something that like I got smacked in the face by Nicola twice at Worlds, and so it definitely like left an impression on me. It is just like it's a very reliable alpha strike. And as you said, their biggest utility is in the first couple rounds. Once you lose two aqua models, their attack dice certainly start to like really fall off a cliff. And then once you're down to the leader, like once your heavy dies, you're like basically don't have any attack dice, and at that point you're like doing like move punch with them, which is
Yeah.
sort of
Impact
funny.
one.
Yeah,
Let's
that's
go.
right. That's right. But the consistent thing with aquas for me is just that like they obviously can die, but it takes so much damn effort for your opponent to fully kill an aqua unit that once it's dead, like I've just like I've had so many games where I have an aqua unit that finally dies, and I look at the rest of the board, and it's like my first lost activation, and they've lost four activations, and so it just feels like a rough exchange. Um, Mike, have you gotten to play with the aqua droids much yourself?
Well, yeah, it was like when they came out, I like immediately went out and my local store for whatever reason only ordered one of them, so I bought all of the aqua droids that they had. So and I wanted to buy two, and I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm only playing one at the next tournament.
Yeah,
And yeah, I think they're just kind of insane for the cost. I agree that they're kind of overrated from like a I think a damage perspective, but from like the amount of damage that they're able to just like take and stay on the board in a game where it just like matters that you stay alive on the POIs is just really crazy. I don't know. It's like each shot that they take feels like it's lucky to kill a model. And like if they kill a model, you're feeling good and they're feeling terrible because there's still like 9 health in the squad left, and they have to do that 3 more times before that they can kill this thing. And like in order to kill one model, you gotta pass at least 5 hits into this unit. It's not like you can be shooting at them with like naked core and kill stuff. It's like if you want to kill this unit, you have to shoot it with your sleeper cell, or you have to shoot it with your arcs.
right.
And like at best, you're getting half the unit. Like I don't know.
Tw 12 health behind Surging White Dice and Armor 2 for a 93 point unit is just absolutely insane.
It's a lot. And again, I say overrated, not bad. They're
Yeah, yeah,
obviously
yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I
They're not running around murdering entire armies, but they are running around getting shot at by entire armies and still existing on the battlefield, and that does count for a lot.
I think Kyle used this term a lot when he was on the cast. Distraction Carnifex. And I feel that way about aquas, and that like they are like if you shoot them, your opponent like your if your opponent is shooting your aquas, you're very happy with that. Like that is what they are sitting on the board to do.
That is usually how I feel. I agree.
Like they're meant to be there as a bullet sponge. And I think my advice for anybody that's playing against aquas is frankly to shoot. If you can shoot and kill the things around them, you should do that instead. I think that is a
Probably.
much better use of your time, generally.
But sometimes with line of sight and distance and whatever, like they're the only option.
Sometimes
And
you can't, for sure.
and yeah, and so like those situations can be pretty nice when you're the aqua player. Yeah, they're very good. Probably don't leave home without them in most CIS lists.
I would take
Uh,
one in just
yeah,
about every CS list.
I will say that there's one CIS list where that's not an option, which is well, there's two. There's Separatist Invasion. Not too much to say, but I mean, real quick, Trent, Separatist Invasion, go.
Now that it has two commanders, maybe. When it has one commander, it was entirely unplayable. Um, but I don't know. I'm not a big AAT guy. We can get into that. So that's why I don't really like
Yeah,
them. But
let's just talk about that now, right? It's like, yeah, it's
yeah,
SI requires an AAT.
yeah.
And then there's also, of course, the option of just running the AAT separately. Barrage is certainly better than it used to be with the cover change.
Yeah.
And there's going to be multiple turns where the AAT is exactly where it needs to be, which is like sitting on some back point somewhere, and barraging that is like not a bad choice at all. Um, but I guess it is very expensive, and so you were saying that you're not a huge fan of them. So like, tell us why not, Trent.
My problems with the AAT are mostly geometry based. When
Mm,
you have that huge base like on the front of a POI, it it kind of takes up all your room to run onto it. And so you're either having to run past it or your AAT's got to be so far in front that you're exposing the back point or the weak point rear.
yeah.
And then it's also got the min range problem that if you're sitting on
Mm,
POIs, you're probably gonna have to shoot across the map onto a different POI or something. Um, and I feel like when you're spending that much points for it's mostly defensive tech is what you're paying for.
right.
You kind of need that unit to be scoring if you're putting that much into defensive tech, and I don't think it's a very good scoring unit in general. So
I think that's fair. For what it's worth, the I think Andy had the third, like it was like the third highest ranking CIS list at Adepticon. He ended up at like 11th or something like that. Because Isaiah barely beat him in the last round in order to get in. But he did have an AAT. He used it to good effect. And for those who are curious, he has spoken on the That's Snowman podcast about like how he was able to do that. It's not nothing to have high velocity. Also, there are certainly some situations where shooting that at either a Jedi or a like fully dodged up sleeper cell can feel pretty satisfying to get past all that crap. But yeah, like I can totally see the geometry issues to where if you're like sitting behind a point, you're blocking yourself off from like many advantages that you would actually want to have, but getting in front of it takes like extra effort. When you have a speed one move and a base that big, it's hard to like get places sometimes, even with the free pivot. But yeah, Mike, where do you come down on AATs at the end of the day?
Terrible. Don't take them. They're real bad.
Terrible.
I just it's
Hear
like
that, Andy? Terrible.
it's like I think it has two it's trying to do two things, I think is the major issue. The first
Yeah.
is every unit you have has to be able to score. I think Trent pointed that out like pretty clearly. And I think Barrage directly kind of interferes with that game plan, right? In order, if you want your AAT to be doing maximum damage output, you have to be able to shoot, right? And if you
Right.
shoot, you're not moving on to points and stuff.
Fair.
And that's just like it's kind of a non-bow. If we ever get objectives that don't require, like every unit to be a scoring unit, I think the AAT could be quite good. But the AAT is still at its core a fire, like a firing piece, right? It sits in the back and it just like throws its shells and you're happy about that. Or you can use it like an ISP, but you can't do both. It's like it's one or the other. And the ISP can do both and is half the cost, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's how I feel about it. I do think you have to take high energy shells. If you're going to take the AAT, if you don't take high energy shells, I think you made a mistake.
Yeah. I see your point, and I like the idea of the barrage thing, but the AT needs to be in exactly the place it wants to be for the rest of the game before you start thinking about doing stuff like that. and not every objective is going to cooperate with you there. But I
And
hope it just gets a little cheaper.
yeah, and I think like one of the things about vehicles with this base size is that they can contest multiple points at the same time. Like that's one of their like
That's
serious
true.
advantages, like buses and stuff. The AAT's really got to get aggressive if it wants to do that, and you lose all of like everything else on its unit card is like irrelevant at that point.
And again, it's so much harder to get to that place you want to go when you only have a speed one tool to actually like
Get there.
use because
Like
yeah,
train
And
gets in the
it's
way.
so easy to stop that as an opponent.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can just use cohesion and just be like, hey, your AAT can't move here. It's pretty rough. The other big boy in CIS is the snail tank. So this is another uh, Battle Force relevant topic. I think maybe I'll start with the simpler question, Trent. Um, do you see any kind of role for the non-Battle Force snail tank?
Yeah, I think that all of the problems that AAT has, the Persuader kind of solves.
Mm-hmm.
It's super fast. It's lean, so you're not blocking off as much of your own space. And the ion guns can be huge.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, and yeah, I mean, defensive protocols on that thing has always been stupid.
It is still
it's
stupid, in fact. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I think the snail's great. A lot of my lists are becoming single aqua, single snail. Is kind
Okay.
of where I'm moving a lot of the time.
Yeah, I can totally see that. I will say like if you're running a snail, like you were talking in the beginning about how like you're starting most of your list with Kalani anyway. But if you have a snail, Kalani is particularly important because when he can dodge himself up and then use that second strategize on the snail, and then you have like two dodges and outmaneuver, uh, and nimble, it gets pretty ridiculous. And
Yeah,
then uh, I guess like in EXD, it's like sort of a it's sort of a not all that interesting question just because it's obviously you don't have any other options, and I'm not sure if there's an EXD list that exists that doesn't have the experimental version of the snail in it, just because you have to like fill up to 1,000 points somehow. But do you when you're thinking about EXD, like, do you think that double snail is still the answer, or do you think more of a single snail and then concentrating the rest of your points on troopers is the better way to go?
I think I would do double snail generally. Um, you kind of the thing with EXD is you kind of have to win on just shooting because you don't have a ton. Like EXD has always been it's the best gun line, and then just enough like wiggle room with the speed three moves that it can get away with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's still true. It's just not quite as good of a dominant as a gun line, I would say. But the Arsenal three snails definitely go a long way to helping it get close to that.
Yeah, I mean, when you can get that range three shot off, it's or the range two shot off also. It's kind of silly how much dice you can put into that. And maybe it goes without saying, but defensive protocols that's the way
Always,
you always go, right?
always, yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I've seen some attack protocols. I just it gets pretty squishy with the huge side
The
arcs.
impact side, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
if you
That
don't have the defensive protocols.
it can go down really fast when you have just like a bunch of dingus rebel troopers that are shooting at side, and each one of them is getting a free crit with all of them.
Yeah.
It starts to go down pretty fast. Mike, do you have any thoughts about the snail tank in general?
Great, super great in EXD. I don't know. It's definitely, I think, on the list for. I was surprised it wasn't in your top three heavies, Trent.
Yeah, it's up there for sure.
I think that with the other heavies you mentioned, it's just that like you think of the value that you get for less than 100 points,
Sure.
or like barely over 100 points with those options. Compared to the with the snail, you're certainly like paying significantly more, but it's not like a massive amount. You obviously
No.
get way more offense with the snail than you do with any of those other like smaller heavy units. But the roughest part about the snail, in my opinion, is the fact that if you are like a new CIS player and you don't have one,
Can't find
then
one.
you can't find one. And unlike the AT, which I think is coming out later this year as a re-release, the snail I think is Q3 26, which is really, really, really rough. And I hope that that timeline can get moved up because like when I was doing the buyer's guide, like updating it with now all the info we have after Adepticon, that was like the one that stood out to me as having like the roughest gulf between it has a lot of utility now, you can't find it now, and the re-release is not coming until like over a year from now. So that one is kind of painful. So I hope that new players out there will have kind veteran players who will be willing to loan out their snail tanks so that they can maybe get a little bit of experience with them. But yeah, pour one out for the snail tank for now. It's a tough one to get a hold of. Um, okay, and we will close everything off by talking about operatives. I think something that's come up with a lot of the discussion so far is that uh, with the soon to be advent of Hondo Onaka, I think CIS is like yet another list that is sort of like, going like this, thinking about all the dumb stuff that they're gonna do with this guy when he comes out. So, but that'll be probably its own entire podcast once we like get the full rules and we talk about all the dumb ways that he's going to be useful in every army out there. So aside from that, there are two mercenary options. So we can talk about those first. We got Bosk and Cad Bane. When we were talking about Shadow Collective, we were pouring one out for Cad Bane, especially with the loss of Comms Relay. But do you see a way to squeeze value out of Cad Bane, or are you skipping right past him, Trent?
Oh man. I love Cad. He's one of my favorite characters to play.
Yeah,
It's a little tough. I don't
but
think
is
he
he good?
divulged
Like I know
his
he's fun
card
to
anymore.
play.
I think it's much. I think there's. This is a theory.
Okay.
Um, we're moving past that question because the answer is probably no. But I do think there's maybe value to being able to dive onto an objective and then teleport back at the start of the round.
Huh.
Um, uh, when you play as 3-pip just normally,
Sure.
so you can suicide dive, pull yourself back, and then suicide dive again the next round. Um, I could see that maybe being a thing. I haven't really gotten it to work yet, but I think it could potentially.
I'm glad somebody's trying. But then Bosk, I think, slots a little bit more easily. If you're running a list that like where your command hand at the baseline is such that you don't mind trying to put maybe even both his 2-pip and his 3-pip in there in order to like get that maximum value out of it, then I've had at least one game where he just killed Rex
Oh
because
yeah.
he had lying in wait and there's no place for me to hide Rex, and he just died. And it's really annoying. He's not that expensive, and he's like a great back point holder. Um, like what do you think of the list that Bosk belongs in?
I've thought about him a lot as a land speeder hunter. Because you come
Oh,
in with lying in
interesting.
wait, you can probably break a land speeder, and then if they used Astro, you maybe even kill one.
Yeah,
Um,
I
um
like it.
uh
Spoken like a true Brian
Yeah,
Bear
like a
opponent.
true Brian Bear opponent. Exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, I like that. I think he's really great in high
but
activation lists.
um
Like,
I think you hit the nail on the head there. High activation list. He's a little more effort to get aims than everything else in the faction just because he can't share from exemplar.
yeah.
Um, so that's a little knock on him, but I think he has a spot for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, like in a list where you're otherwise running a bunch of generics, like, especially if you're running a no hero list with like Kalani and a T series, like he would slot really, really well into a list like that. And then, you're not spending a lot of points in your commanders, so you can have just a whole bunch of activations, which, as we've said many times in the show, is certainly a viable strategy. I think that is a list where Box could do really well. But Bosk and Cad Bane, Mike, what's your opinion on those in CIS?
You can be doing better stuff with your points, I think,
Hmm.
is my assessment. I think Bosk is maybe a question, but it's tough because he's probably your secondary focus piece, and he kind of always wants orders, and you can't really reverse order sort in the way that you could before. Like you're gonna generally always have like a kind of mishmash of things in your bag now, just because of how many points the game is,
Yeah.
particularly if you're like 14x, right? Which most CIS lists are floating around. So, um, yeah, I think I'd leave him at home. But if you're gonna take one of them, take Bosk.
Yeah, I think I'm with you
That's
there.
fair for sure.
And then of course we have to sort of close out talking about specific units, we have the two Dark Jedi, or like Sith acolyte ish folks, actual Sith for like 5 seconds in Maul's case. But we'll talk about Asajj first. Um, she still remains potentially very squishy if you leave her out there. But with jump two, it's like she can move around the board pretty well, and hopefully you're being more cautious. Uh, like what do you think is the ideal Asajj list to be in?
I've always been fully Maul over Asajj
Okay.
in just about every instance. Um, I don't know. I think her with saber throw is decent, but I would almost always rather have Maul. Um,
Yeah, it's hard to talk about one without the other, and I think I can see I can agree with you in the sense that when I think about the list where Saj shows up, it's actually usually been in, like multi-saber list where Maul is also in the list. And so,
right.
obviously she
Um,
has the Dooku synergy with that one command card, but even that I don't think is enough to, like, if you can only choose one of them. Uh, but yeah, I mean, continue with your thought, Trent.
I do think that there's a world where you take her with a crab and you get a turn one saber throw off and then use the reinforcements to kind of duck behind an aqua or a wall or something. And
Yeah.
that's something Maul can't do. But I don't know. She's always been just too high variance for me. She could just die immediately, and her saber's very swingy. Um, I don't know. I don't know if I've just had bad luck with her, or if I'm just a Maul fanboy, but I've just never really clicked with her.
Yeah, so I guess let's just move right to Maul, and then we'll get to you after that, Mike, to sort of compare the two. But with Maul, there's obviously more action utility there. He has the ability to infiltrate, so you don't need to worry about scouting party nonsense. I think that the the rough part with Maul um, is the fact that he doesn't have wounded, unlike the Shadow Collective version, which has its own issues actually. But the rough part to me is the fact that you have to play at last in order. It feels like you have to play at last early in order to actually like get utility out of him. But I may be thinking about it wrong. Like what's the way that you actually squeeze the value out of Maul, Trent?
Um, I think very thematically, actually, people are often too impatient with Maul.
Hmm.
Um, I don't think you need to play the one pip super
Okay.
early. I actually like to wait to play the one pip until I'm in melee, uh, and just make people really think about whether they want to actually hit me or in like a a precarious spot. Um, because if you hit me like and you do one wound, I was gonna do that anyway. So that's just a waste of a shot. Um, so he he's a great control piece as well. Diminished a little bit in this edition, but I think he's still a great candidate for force push. Still a great candidate for saber throw is still great on him, and
Yeah.
his Duel of the Fates card is Duel of the Fates followed by At Last will still basically kill any force user um very consistently.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that is interesting, is like the idea of being patient with him. I think that that is easier, that's a lot easier to do in a list where Maul truly is the centerpiece, because then you're not like, because if you had like Maul and Dooku, it would be rough if you had, like, if you were in a place where Dooku really wanted to play FSI, but then Maul was sitting there unwounded, and you were like, well, I can either do the Dooku one pip, or I can like enable Maul to do the thing he wants to do. But if Maul is sort of like the big gun in your list, then using that strategy, it does seem like pretty doable. Um, and then Mike, when you think about Asajj versus Maul, like how are you doing that comparison?
Yeah, I mean it's Maul and it's not particularly close. I think Asajj just like I don't know. Maul's like better in every way. I don't
She
know.
doesn't do enough things that Maul can't do to like really stand out, right?
Yeah, like getting Makashi is cool, Bounty is cool. The amount of times that generally comes up is like pretty low.
Yeah.
You generally want to be throwing your lightsaber into like things that like into large units as opposed to characters often generally. So I don't know. I have never played Maul in the new edition of Legion on his own. He has always been my second to Dooku. I've been playing like Dooku Maul 14X with like triple droidecas and aquas and a bunch of naked core. It's been very good. I'm hesitant to put force push on him just because it just feels like without Master of the Force that's tough, and I don't know. But I do agree that like you should be patient with Maul and let your opponent trigger the mastery. Like that's definitely a thing that
That makes sense.
um I you know yeah shoot Maul great like deflect is always on now. It's actually like nowadays I think that's a way more defensible thing to do between deflect being always on, backup being a thing. Like you can sort of just like wait and let your opponent do the damage for you.
Yeah.
And if they don't, great. You just stick them all in there at full health and whatever,
Yeah.
like, all right,
Yeah.
sweet. Burst of speed's gonna the thing is like what you're giving up there is if they don't shoot him, you're gonna lose an attack, which okay, but like he's still gonna double move every turn, right? You're not losing his pace of getting to where he wants to go. You're just gonna miss out on a single attack, basically. So, um,
He did actually, it does, when you put it that way, it does seem like he benefited one of the most from the change to
And
deflect out of anybody. Go ahead, Trent.
he still has the largest threat range in the game if you have push and burst on him too. In order as far as swinging a lightsaber goes, is you can double move with burst, push, and then swing.
I think outside of
Ahsoka may have him beat, and Anakin with his one
Anakin
pip.
definitely can get there with a burst of speed, triple moved, one
Yeah,
pipped.
but
And okay, yeah,
yeah.
I forgot about Anakin.
Yeah,
That's
Anakin's still real stupid.
Remember how Anakin has a command that has both a free move and a double attack on it?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That was just like a cool decision. Yeah, so I do agree that like when I'm playing a Jedi, and Maul is out there, Duel of the Fates is just like such a terrifying command card in general, because like there are a lot of dudes where it just like takes all of your magic away. And it's also super annoying, you know, when you have uh when like it's Maul up against an arc trooper and you have like dodges hanging around and you're just like, well, I can't use these. it's it's pretty rough.
Might as well
Uh,
say Republic, you can't do anything fun.
yeah, pretty much. And I mean, it was always the worst when you were playing Obi-Wan, the and like if you made the mistake of playing Hello There at the same time as Duel of the Fates, it was very thematic and that it took like literally the entire card away, but it still felt pretty rough. Okay, so and then real quick, the training slots on Maul, are we doing Freight Tenacity?
Sometimes I drop tenacity for C's depending on the list, but
Oh
yeah.
yeah, fair. But yeah, Frey is important to both keep him alive and also when he activates late, and then you swing that double-bladed saber and you get 3 surge results, is that you can actually do something with it, which is pretty nice. Okay, so yeah, putting everything together, uh, like Mike, this is now the second to last faction overview that we've done. We do still have Empire left. We're going to be covering that next week.
We got to dig it out of the trash can.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have somebody on who is, you know, maybe one of the best equipped people out there to try and help us do that. But um, it really does feel like this is the faction that just has it has really great options in every single slot. Um, and even in the slots where it feels like you know, maybe you could argue their weakest slot of special forces because there's nothing that's really like a must have. But you know, commandos and even magnas are still like fine. And then you look at slots like support where, you know, we talked about how crabs and spiders are pretty good. But that the only reason why they're not seeing play is because they have a truly ridiculous option. All of their core options are great. Uh, Plenty of good options at commander and operative. One of the best heavies in the game. Like, what's not to love about CIS?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the case of where
There's
even your bad options are good, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, like Trent, what is part of the appeal of the faction just the fact that you can build so many different lists out of it and still have success?
for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the faction I own, so I've kind
Yeah,
of stuck with
of
it,
course.
whether they're bad or good. But it definitely helps that they're good right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels to me like it's the most versatility out of any of the factions. And you know, they're also they're usually fun. It's usually like fun to build and paint. It just it's just like kind of relaxing to paint a droid compared to a person where you have to worry about all this other stuff. And now that the heads come as one complete B1 head, you no longer have to glue the tiny double piece together, which, as we found out from Ali Dyer, was literally the thing that caused him to throw the faction in the garbage before he got back into the game.
I feel like
Uh,
that was like an overreaction.
Hey man, I cannot tell you as a new Legion player just how many half heads like when I was clipping them like flew to the complete opposite side of the room and were never ever seen again. Like there's probably a corner in my old apartment just because I moved a couple years ago that still has like a couple of B1 like back halves that are just like sitting there collecting dust. So yeah, I'm glad that they did that. Um, Trent, you know, the last question I have for you, this is going to like dig into your knowledge of things relevant to CIS. We were just talking about the Duel of the Fates command card. Are you able to tell me? I've always wondered this. What is the function of the stupid laser gates that Obi-Wan and Maul had to like hang out outside of in that movie? I've been trying to
Oh
figure that one
man,
out since 1999, and I still haven't gotten there.
that is a great question. I would say primarily there to isolate Jedi Masters from the Padawans in order so they could be picked off more easily, would be just from an engineering perspective, kind of why they're there. But you know,
Dramatic tension.
That was kind of like the one of the dumb jokes that I remember from like the Family Guy Star Wars, where like they were talking about the exhaust port and they said it was a design choice from the architects.
I mean, it turned out it was, right?
Yeah, yeah. Funny enough, they actually predicted the plot of Rogue One. But yeah, I like that answer. I like it a lot. So like the function of them is to separate Jedi Masters from their Padawans so that they can get more easily killed by the little Sith Lord.
by the good guys. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay, well, with that last bit of hot knowledge dropped, I think we're gonna close things out. Trent, thank you so much for being here and talking about your favorite faction. I'd love to have you back sometime, especially if if you are able to scrounge up success and obliterate all the competition at Rocky Top with Sunfac and a Rad Cannon Trooper, then we might ask you to come back and tell us more about that. But yeah, thank you so much for being here, Trent.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. Probably don't mark your calendars for that, but we'll
Well, yeah.
I would not clear space, but we're gonna try. We'll see what happens.
All right. Well, best of luck to you on that. And Mike, how do we land the plane here?
Yeah, this has been season 4, episode 16 of the Notorious Scoundrels podcast. I'm Mike.
I'm Evan.
I'm Trent.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.